COVID is still a bitch. And has anyone checked on Betty White lately? I didn't hear the overlay.
Welcome to Gay Talk 2.0, the ultimate podcast for your dose of dish. You're lucky we love you, and you're lucky this show is live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Gay Talk 2.0, an LGBT podcast, streaming live on Digital Stream Radio, where you can access that live stream every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can do so by visiting digitalstreamradio.com. Today, we're going to welcome Edafe Okporo. He's the executive director of RDJ, a refugee shelter located in Harlem. He is also a refugee himself. As a gay man, he fled the West African nation of Nigeria to seek refuge from persecution for being gay and immigrated here to the U.S. He's going to join us on the second half of the show. My name is Tom, and I'm your host. And as always, I'm here with crazy people, starting with the first one.
Hey, y'all, Nick or Trish.
And
this is Elsie.
And welcome you guys to Gay Talk. So, Elsie, you can't hear an overlay, sweetie. You can see it.
I don't know what the hell that means. Hello. Like you don't know?
This. Can you see that?
You
can't hear an overlay.
I am convinced that this is my shtick for the podcast.
Like seriously.
You also took my part of the opener, which is fine. But I think from now on we should just let Elsie talk for the opener.
And work your way around me. So first of all, stop setting me up for failure. You cued me in. I know. I saw it. And you said I had the opener.
Well, some of it. But either way, it's always so what?
So in our notes for our listeners, the opener is listed like this. E for Elsie. COVID is still a bitch. N for Nick. Has anybody checked on Betty White?
And then I just hit go. And she just ran with it.
That's what that was. Welcome to our new segment. Watch Elsie screw it up.
I love it. So, welcome back another week, Elsie, Chris, Nick. We're missing Chris. Chris will be back eventually. So Elsie, Chris, Elsie, Nick. How the hell are you guys? Obviously, I'm stuck on Chris somehow, but yeah. So why don't we start off with you, Nick? How are you?
I'm good. Super busy at work. But we finally launched the tickets. We launched the website for our gala, which I'm really excited about. If anybody on the podcast wants to be a part of the gala, shameless plug, go to stagedathome.com. And you'll get all the information you need there. So that was my entire day trying to get this going. But other than that, I'm good. I didn't really do much this weekend. It was my roommate's birthday, so he made a cake and we hung out. It was kind of chill.
He made a cake?
Yeah, so for his birthday,
his own birthday, Nick. Really?
Well, he loves to bake. So for his birthday, me and his mom bought him a KitchenAid. You know, one of those KitchenAid mixers.
Oh, I thought you meant like
cool.
an easy bake oven.
No, and so of course he wanted to use it. So he made himself. It was actually really good. It was an angel food cake with whipped cream frosting and strawberries on top.
Yum!
It was so very good. Yeah.
Tommy, we should do a run by.
Right? Because I know there's still some left.
He can throw it into our windows in our moving cars.
So I know there's got to be.
But Elsie wouldn't do it right, and I would smack on her windshield.
Clearly, my window will still be up.
So either there's some angel food cake left, or it's all in Nick's chin. So which one is it? Did you eat it all?
First of all, that's so rude.
I'm sorry, but I want cake.
Yeah.
And if you ate it all, we're gonna have issues.
I didn't eat it all. There's still some left.
So, well, that's fantastic. First and foremost,
I'm also reading. I'm starting to read 2 books right now. So, I'm reading White Fragility, and also I don't want to get the name wrong. I'll read it 1 second. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and let me tell you,
There's
as a
3 of them
white
right here.
as a white man
Stop
reading
talking trash about me.
white fragility, it's fucking with my head. It's
I was
real.
gonna say, how is that going for you? I need more.
Well, so the group that's reading it at work, we're doing a pretty much like a book club, and we have to read both books, and we talk about them. So today was the first session that we talked about them, and you know what was striking for me is that as a person, I've always been 100% against white supremacy and white supremacist groups, like all of that stuff. But what I never realized was I have white privilege because of white supremacy.
Right.
Like literally, like I I I I'm privileged in life because of the people that I can't stand. If that makes any sense. Like
Yeah, it makes all the sense, which makes it worse
It blows your
it's
for
mind,
you.
though, right?
Yeah.
it's crazy. And then there was this other section about Jackie Robinson being the first African American baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is every single thing when it came to people of color was 100% controlled by white men. Even
Everything.
at that point. Like not letting them play in the major leagues, and then finally they're like, okay, we'll let him play in the major leagues. And then on top of that, I watched The Blind Side this weekend, which I'm sure we've all seen. I love that movie.
Too. I loved it.
That's because you
So,
whatever.
so
But
I have a lot of issues with this whole, white woman comes to save the day thing.
Yes.
However, that
Well, that was-
story.
well, that was the kind of the point I was making. Like at that, though, there's that one scene in the movie where he's being questioned by the CDC, not the CDC, Corona,
The double.
NAACP.
Thank
No,
you.
something like
Yeah.
that. Whatever.
Yes.
But so he's being questioned, and the reason he's being questioned is because they think it's a white family not doing the right thing. And it just made me realize.
Or
It just
doing
made
something good, but doing it for ulterior motives, like
Right.
making sure that he's playing for Mississippi, or encouraging him, or it's just so weird the way that whole scene played out in the movie.
Mhm.
I agree with you 100%, but
but it
then
like fed right into that part of the Jackie Robinson like story in the white fragility. Like and then I talked to my father about the book itself, and he brought up the fact that, well, Italians were persecuted when they first came over here. And I was like, yeah, but Italians assimilated into white culture and are considered white men now. So that's not comparable. Like, and then it talks about that in the book because it's brought up in the book when it's really racism, is just such a complicated thing. And the reality is being a white person in a space with people of color talking about this book and racism, it's so hard. And I have like a lot of guilt, a lot of guilt when I read the book, because I just think about historically the things that were just handed to me and or the privilege that I've had that others have not. And it really screws with your mind. It makes you really understand a little bit. It makes you understand racism, and it makes you understand that there is no reverse racism, and that's
And
not a thing.
It also helps in pointing out that a lot of this stuff is still happening, through gentrification, or through appropriating certain neighborhoods, and where only these type of people can live, and then we're going to take funding from this neighborhood, or we're not going to provide this neighborhood this because, and chances are the people on the receiving end of that, we're not going to give you XYZ, are typically people of color and brown people.
Yeah.
It's incredible when you realize how much privilege you have.
But it also talks about homosexuality and the cisgender white man, and I think that's really interesting as well, because I'm a gay white man, so I have white privilege, but I have experienced discrimination. So there are it's really complicated. You have to read the book, but like it's just interesting to think about all the different layers. And like I can I don't think I could ever say that I was, you know, I would never say that I was based or discriminated based on race, but definitely based on um
Your
my
sexuality.
sexuality. But then there was this other level where the writer talks about the fact that when she walks into a room, she addresses the room, generally full of white people, as whites.
And how does
And
that make
like
them feel?
people get angry. And but I think it also, but for me, it didn't make me angry. What it made me realize is I've never even thought about it like that. I've never heard that term before, like used in that way. You know what I mean? Because this, let me make a caveat that I'm reading a book and it's very intense. When I say this, I don't mean to sound racist in any way, but when you hear the term blacks or brown people, right? You've heard that term before. You know that the connotations with it. When you hear the word whites, that's not used. And that's and that's like the basis of white supremacy. It's like they're literally they've removed themselves from the ability to be discriminated.
Right. So it's almost as if there's a connotation between being white. The connotation is that you're white, and so all things positive
And it's
about
better.
you, and it's better. And so there's no need to say, when having a positive conversation about any given person, we don't have to say that they're white. However, when we speak, and that goes both ways. So when you're speaking positively or negatively about a person, if they're white, there's never a need for the media or everyone, you and I, to feel the need to say Nick, who is white, right? And
Right.
there's a very good example of that in the news now with the gentleman who was murdered by the
Mhm.
two white
Yep.
men. Um, as I read through those articles, I was actually taking kind of like taking stack of how many articles there were that I went through and how many actually refer to them as white men. And maybe one did, and it was from I think the source was from someone who was actually um, a person of color who was talking about the article about the murder, because that's what it was.
Yeah.
And they said by two white men. All the other mainstream articles do not refer to them as white men.
Mm-hmm.
And when we read about people of color committing crimes, it's never, Nick, violated this law. Is usually Nick, a black
Caucasian.
male,
Yeah.
committed this crime. And that's not the case when the perpetrators are white. And that is also part of white supremacy and white privilege.
Mhm.
Indeed.
There's never, so your race is only of consequence if it's a negative conversation being had.
100%. And the baseline of white supremacy, why it happened, was to create that. And another really interesting point is racism, and especially now that we're actually in a time where coronavirus is a thing, right? And it mutates, right? But racism will continue to mutate and do what it like, so it will never die, because it's like this thing that will just find something else to target and go after until we all understand what racism actually is and what discrimination actually is and what white supremacy actually is, and how our country was built on the backs of people of color, and how all the rich white people are only rich because of the backs of people of color. Until we realize that, name it, and say it out loud, nothing will fucking change.
Well, that's why,
Right.
you know, a lot of people in prominent, a lot of black and brown people in prominent areas of our government, or people who are in offices, and even people that are not, are calling for reparations. You know, we owe a huge debt to people of color in this country, not only for their
Huge.
sacrifice,
We
but
owe
only
this
for,
country to people of color.
of course.
And it's really interesting, and you guys know what I do for a living, right? And we have these conversations all the time where I actually know a very, very privileged white man that works with us, Tom. And he's one of those kind of, I call him an inadvertent racist. He is completely unaware and has convinced himself that there is no such thing as racism, that equal opportunity employment is essentially a way to, like Nick says, there's reverse racism involved in that, where, well, if there's two of us, whereas if you're the lesser qualified candidate, you get the job just because you're of color. And that is not the case.
Mhm.
However, when you look at diversifying the workplace and giving people equal opportunities, if the two candidates are in fact qualified equally, yes, it is very likely that I might go for the person of color, only because we probably already have 5 white people in similar roles, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most people are unaware of these biases, and we actually go through it all the time in my position, where you're not even aware that that's what you're doing. You assume that because someone is white, they'll just be a better candidate, and that is unfortunately bullshit.
Well, there's this one part in the book where somebody that the author is giving a lecture to slams his fist, and white people can't even get a fucking job anymore, and he's like making the whole room
Right.
uncomfortable. And her response was actually so poignant. She said, "Look around the room." He looked around the room. How many people of color are in this room? 2. End of story.
Right,
It
right.
just
Right. And it's not, I think, and I love having these conversations. They make people really uncomfortable, and there are things that are factual that you cannot dispute regardless. We can talk about the thing and we can talk about how we feel about the thing. It does not change the thing, right? The thing being that when we talk about women, when we talk about people of color, yes, of course, they're behind in the workforce because for years they were denied education and then they were allowed to go to school. And I'm using the word allowed as in they were not allowed, as in legally, they were not allowed to go to school.
And it was
Right.
worse for women of color.
And it was worse for women because we're also then women. Um, and so, yes, you're behind because you have not been able to evolve academically, right,
Mhm.
as white people have. So of course you're behind, and of course, yeah, you do need a little bit of a leg up because for centuries you were not allowed to grow academically. You were not allowed to grow your business. You were not allowed. And so yes, society has set us people of color behind, women behind. And if that means that we now have to Tommy's point, kind of play catch up and uplift them and kind of give them the opportunities over someone else, absolutely, because for centuries it was the other way around.
and listen, nothing happens overnight, and we need to be reminded every day that it wasn't no more than 50 plus years ago. We had a young little girl had to be escorted into school by the National Guard because she was the first black student to be allowed to walk into a white school. And when you think about the fact that that happened in our history, there's no denying that even in today's world, people of color, children specifically of color, are less likely to receive a quality education, even when they're located in the same classroom as their white counterparts,
You know,
because of the fact that they're black
that's
or
so great.
brown or Latino.
That's also addressed in the book. Actually, not only are they talking about racism, but the reality of what you're born into, your race, what your God-given race is, that can that can tell you about your lifespan, that can tell you about your education, that can tell you if you're going to be rich, if you're going to be poor. Like there are all these crazy studies about the fact that like people of color literally have been put down so much that their life expectancy in areas of the world is lower than a white man.
Right.
It also determines where you can live too, because think about
Or
how,
where you
for
can go to
example,
school, how much education you can get. Like this book is blowing my mind. Like it's like I have to put it down to process. Like I would suggest everybody read it, but especially every single white person read this fucking book because it will blow your mind and it will change your perspective. Like, holy crap.
I know. So to your point, Nick, these conversations are important because, as you say, well, I didn't really realize to what extent I'm privileged, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where that privilege was, where how it came about, and the terrible things that happened that resulted in my privilege, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is jarring. And people think that saying dumb things like "I don't see color," "I don't see race,"
Colorblind, blah.
something is wrong with you, because
Yeah.
there are differences, and you saying that you don't see race actually makes you a racist asshole a little bit, because what you're doing is you're invalidating facts that have caused so many struggles unnecessarily for
Mm-hmm.
people of color, for people of any race outside of white. Because even within our race, Tommy, you know how it goes. And we're super shameless about how racist we are. Like, you have a little bit more white in your skin, you're treated different, even within our country. I'm from Dominican Republic, right? I
and
had
I'm
a
from Puerto Rico,
conversation.
and
Yeah, we're
really,
the worst. What?
seriously.
Because we're shameless, Nick. We sing songs
But
about it.
you're not the that's the thing. It's like you're not the worst, but here's my thing.
So
I don't think that I don't think that people of color can actually be they can individuals can be racist, right? But as a whole, there is no racism for white people, and there can't
Against
be.
them, women, right?
well, white people can't claim racism because, first of all, they have never experienced that. They don't know what it is to live under
Mm-hmm.
the oppression that the white man exerted on the black community since the founding, and even
Not just
before
the
that,
black.
before the founding of this nation. So
Mm-hmm.
listen, guys, I love where this conversation is going, but we do need to take a break. We have our guest waiting
I
backstage.
just want to say one more thing. Can I say one more thing?
Break.
Fine.
Okay, so we're gonna take a break. We'll leave you with some music. We'll be right back.
Greeted by a new sunrise. Tomorrow's hopes are in my eyes. Paints horizons in the sky that's meant for me, meant for me. Ready now to face the day. Done with fears of yesterday. Waited long enough to say I'm on the way. I'm on the way. I believe. I believe. I believe there is more to me than surface. I believe. I believe. Greeted by a new sunrise. Tomorrow's hopes are in my eyes. Paints horizons in the sky that's meant for me, meant for me. I believe in love at first sight. Some things are worth the fight. Some you learn to say goodbye, like letting go. I believe. more to me than surface. I believe, I
Welcome back from the break, ladies and gentlemen. That was Believe, of course, by Going Deeper, featuring Davis Mallory, a previous guest of ours. We're waiting on Nick. Don't know where he went. But either way, we had a very interesting conversation during the first half of the show, which talked about racism, talked about a specific book that Nick is reading, and we would definitely love to dive into that a little bit more. But we're going to bring in our guest in the meantime, while Nick comes back. So, our guest tonight is, of course, a West African refugee who immigrated to the U.S. to flee oppression for being simply who he is, which is a gay man. And he's doing great work in Harlem. We're super excited to have him on the show. So, I would like to welcome to the show Edafe Okporo. I hope I said your last name correctly, and I do apologize if I did not. Welcome. Welcome to the
Thank you
show.
very much for having me.
Oh,
Um,
it is our
it's a
pleasure.
pleasure.
So there's Nick. Oh, he's come back.
Am I late to the party?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Edafe, it is truly our honor to have you on the show. I know that you have a very amazing story, your journey here to the U.S. We're definitely going to dive into that. But before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and then we can jump in and have our conversation.
My name is Edafe Okporo. If people ask me what I do, I ask them, do you go to work and sometimes find it difficult to be able to resonate with members of your team in your organization? If the answer is yes, then I'm the person you look for to help solve that problem. I'm a diversity and inclusion consultant, so I help build inclusivity culture in organization, especially for LGBTQI people and refugees, especially in this time that we're dealing with a lot of diversity in America.
That's fantastic. So, you are also, if correct me if I'm wrong, the executive director for RDJ, which is a refugee shelter located in Harlem. And how do you find yourself in that role? Like, is that something that drives you? Your immigrating here to the U.S. Is that the reason why you are so involved with the immigration and refugee cause?
Part of it, yeah. So before I came to the US, I was working for USAID as an LGBT activist in Nigeria, fighting for gay people to have access to HIV treatment because in 2014, the government of Nigeria passed a law that criminalizes same-sex relationships by 14 years imprisonment. So this led to more gay people being afraid to access healthcare services. So I, as an activist, would be persecuted 10 years imprisonment. So I left Nigeria to come to the United States to seek an opportunity to a better life. When I came to the US, I was detained by immigration. I spent over 6 months in immigration detention center to get my asylum. And when I was granted asylum, I was detained in New York JFK airport, driven to New Jersey, and I stayed in detention center for 6 months. And they reached 6 months, they just say I should go. I didn't really have anywhere to go to. So I was kind of homeless for a week or so. And when I found my feedback in America, I was asking myself that same question, that when people are being released from the detention center, where do they go to? We're introducing people to poverty, and we say that we're welcoming them to a new country. So I decided to find this organization that will provide a niche, especially for LGBTQ people that are HIV negative and that are not having mental health issues. Because there's housing in New York City for people living with HIV and AIDS, housing for people with mental health issues, but there are no housing for LGBTQ people who are not in those category. And especially if you don't have any form of identification in United States, you can't get into city shelter. So This organization provide holistic care for asylum seekers from Russia, Ethiopia, East Africa, any part of the world that happen to be LGBT themselves in the United States and are trying to find their foot in the new.
So your work is obviously very important for communities and people of color and gay people coming from all over the world in areas in where being gay is outlawed. And can we talk a little bit about your experience back home in Nigeria as a gay man?
Uh, is a very tough experience, but like our experiences shape us. In Nigeria, I was a religious person. I was a pastor of a church. And I denied my homosexuality for a very long time because I went through conversion with the church, with the African traditional healers. I wanted to change who I was because I never saw representation of somebody being gay, not until I moved into the metropolis, that's the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. And while I was there, I saw this hidden community of gay people that are holding like parties, underground parties. They would come with their dress, and when they come into the underground parties, they would dress as women, have lipstick on, eye ears, and they would do drag performances. And I'm like, what is this? What world is this? Found myself in that world, and I discovered that that program enabled people to get access to HIV testing because that was the only point people could come together and they are introduced to HIV and AIDS testing. And I have a degree in food science and technology and a master's in nutrition. And everybody around me were saying one thing over and over again that you can't have HIV through inner sex, that it's only through vaginal sex. And I felt it was my responsibility to educate people about this. That was what put me into the work with HIV and AIDS community because the rate of HIV infection was increasing among gay people. And there was so much fear. And I thought I could be able to provide some kind of support. And that's how I found myself doing the work I was doing in Nigeria.
Do you have any plans to go back to Nigeria
That was my
and continue
question.
the work that you're doing here? Can you?
Is that
I
right? Is
wish
that
I
even a
can, but
possibility?
I no, I can't go back to Nigeria because I am a refugee now. That means I lost the right to be a citizen of Nigeria, so I
Right.
can be protected in the United States. But on my YouTube, I try to create videos about being a gay person from Nigeria, and I use my social media to always educate people. But there's a growing movement from UK that's influencing homosexuality in Africa. There's All Out, there's We All Light, provide access to HIV funding for gay men in West Africa.
So how the gay community in Nigeria, in West Africa, like how do they function? Do they from day to day? Is there like an underground gay culture? Like, I mean, that's the reality. It's like if you can't be who you are publicly, how do you at least express yourself where you need to? Is there like something underground that people are doing?
So usually we have these underground parties whereby gay people come in and they dress as like women and just flex around, and they have like safe house. A safe house is a place whereby if you have been outed, so they call it keto. Keto is like an eye shoe you wear. So if you have been outed, you have been ketoed. So you can't walk on the street, people will shame you. So they will move you to a safe house. There are three states where they can have a safe house: Lagos, Nigeria, Abuja, and in the north. And in these safe houses is HIV and AIDS positive gay men that are hidden in those places until they can get like a passport or a visa to like South Africa or Canada or UK, and they seek asylum there. But in the underground community, there has been a lot of crackdown of those underground community because like the police pay people to tip them that hey, these gay people are
Right.
doing
To
something
tell
there,
on
and they
each other,
attack
right?
and they arrest them. Yeah.
So, so let me ask a broader question. So, why do you think that in Nigeria, the gay culture is looked upon so negatively? Is it uh, the culture of being Nigerian, or is it like what is it that is continually making this happen?
So there was a study that was done by Amnesty International. From the study, they found out that 98% of Nigerians said that gay people are the cause of their problem. So a lot of Nigerians believe that homosexuality is Western and is foreign, and Westerners are trying to inoculate their culture and influence them. There was a time Obama came to East Africa to visit his homeland, and people are saying that Obama is bringing this homosexuality from the United States to influence people in Africa, and we're not going to allow him to come to Nigeria. So I think that there's this idea of who an African man is, and an African man is a cultured man, and gender roles play a lot in what makes you an African. And if you allow two gay people to live together, you have destroyed the gender construct of being able to say, I am an African man. And why would a man do a job of a woman? So I think that we don't want to break our culture, and our culture of who we are as African is what continue to make homosexuality to be seen as foreign and Western. And that is not true though, because there was a book I was reading. It's called Man, Wives, and Boy Husbands. It was written in Angola after the civilization. There was a guy that was a cross dresser, and they told the gods that this person is possessed, and the gods said that after doing consultation with the gods, it's like it's not possessed. From now, you will call her she. So homosexuality have existed in Africa a long time, but it's just like this belief that is Western.
It's
Also,
it,
Oh.
it it's
Tom
it,
said,
yeah. So we're having a little difficulty with the audio. Unfortunately, it's
It's a
name
little
of the game when
choppy.
you're doing a live show. But if you'd like, you can call in. I have the phone line.
Talking about quick.
Diligent.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, this is much better.
Yes.
So, yeah, this way, we can hear you much better, and that way we can have a more organic conversation. And I do apologize, but we're at the mercy of technology here.
No problem.
So since we're on the topic of you know Nigeria and all of that, and the complex topic of homosexuality in the African American community and in Nigeria, I'm wondering if you could speak to or want to speak to um, the the difficulties and the differences of not only having to deal with racism, but then also having to deal with homophobia on top of racism, and how that affected coming out, embracing who you are, and moving forward in life.
It was very difficult for me to accept myself as a gay man because as an African person, the church has a lot of influence on who I am and the values I propagate. But I think talk shows like this and television content made me see myself in other things that I didn't believe I existed in. Like seeing people who are two black male kissing and being in pride and seeing people made me realize that I am normal, and these things was just like ways of making me feel like I am not normal. And I think that there has been a shift in perspective coming to America. Is that as a gay person, there are stages. There's a stage of internalized homophobia, and you now move into the stage of like, oh, okay, I'm really gay. I've kissed a guy. I've had sex with a guy. Then you go into the next stage of like, oh, I've been oppressed all this time. So my role is to help fight for another gay person not to go through that struggle I have gone through. Then you get to the point of being an advocate that you are fighting misinformation and educating people. I think I'm at that stage now that I know that I can't change. Because if I can change, who will choose to be this person that is persecuted, beaten by a mob,
Right.
lose your nationality, not being able to relate to your family, disband from the church and your community? So I know that I can't change. So my role now is to help other younger Nigerians and African gay people see that they exist and they should believe in themselves. So I think I'm at that stage of like advocating for other African queer people.
So, one question for you. So, obviously, you made it here into the U.S. You immigrated here. You mentioned that you were detained for almost 6 months in a detention center before you were allowed to be granted refugee status. Obviously, you hit the floor running. You've built this amazing network of support for people in your situation. But if we have a very broad audience, and we have audience members all over the world. If someone in Nigeria is listening right now, some young gay man who's looking to perhaps follow in your steps and seek asylum or seek help from another nation, what is the best way that they can do that safely in Nigeria?
So the first step is like having a passport, because if you don't have a passport, there's no journey for you. Then when you have a passport, I've helped a lot of people leave Africa. There's an organization in Canada called Rainbow Railroad. And what Rainbow Railroad does is that when you have a passport and you file for like you want to leave your country, they will help you secure the flights that will enable you flee from your country to a third safe country. So you can connect to an organization like Rainbow Railroad. Also, on the internet, there are informations about how to seek asylum. Like I was represented by Immigration Equality in New York City. Immigration Equality on their website have a database for asylum seekers that have gotten to America, then asylum seekers that are in foreign countries that are thinking about seeking asylum in America. Then we have Asylum Connect. It's an online catalog. It's available on iOS and Android. So Asylum Connect catalog give LGBTQ asylum seeker information that will enable them to be able to seek asylum in Western countries like United States, Canada, and Europe. Then if you're in a refugee camp, there's African Human Rights Coalition, AHRC. They help LGBTQ asylum seekers who are in refugee camps to be able to get access to information that will enable them get sponsorship to a third safe country. But know that no matter the stage you are in this process, the most important thing is not to lose hope. Because when you look around, everything is like hopeless. How can I get my passport if I don't have a passport? How can I get a visa? Embassies are closed at this point. How can I run into a safe country or something like that? The first thing you should know is that you have a community wherever you are. You just have to take that extra step to find that community first and share information with them, because the people that fall victim of mob violence and jungle justice are the people that flee away from the community because they are afraid to be outed or things like that and fall into the hands of wrong people. So find that community where you are and ask questions, because like asking for help is the first step to finding help.
So I want to ask two questions. First, I want to ask, it's kind of a hard one, but do you find, because of the culture in Nigeria, in your home country, that the suicide rate within the LGBTQ plus community is much higher?
So I did a study with John Hopkins in 2016 to look at the mental health of gay people in relation to HIV and AIDS access and treatment. And, Nigerians are very resilient. Like committing suicide is a Western thing, I would say. So the rate of suicide among Nigerians is not that high. But, reckless behaviors increase when people are being stigmatized. And there are three ways in which people exhibit this reckless behavior. One of them is that, oh, nobody wants me, so I will give myself to people as like a sexual way of like feeling like I'm somebody. And when people
Right,
do
for
that, they end up,
validation.
yeah, they're like, I want to validate myself, and anybody that tell me that I'm good looking and they love me, I'll throw myself at them. And by doing so, a lot of people become HIV positive. And another way is that, okay, I'm going to hide away from people. I don't want people to know that I'm gay because of this attack I have suffered or something. And they fall into the arms of blackmailers, kidnappers, because those people take advantage of them. Then the third set of people are the crazy people like me that says that, okay, I'm tired of hiding and I'm going to come out and fight. If I die, I die. If I survive, I survive. So these are the three survival modes in which people adapt. But committing suicide has been increasing recently, but it's not as large as like obvious as it is here in the Western world. Last 2 weeks in the refugee camp in Kenya, a transgender woman took her life because she was just tired with the way that they are treating her. She has been in the camp for 2.5 years, and UNHCR could not process her to a third state countries. And other people are being transferred just because she's trans. She was not given the competent care she needed to be able to find a safe third country.
Wow. Wow.
That is truly heartbreaking
Yeah.
to hear the fact that you're in a place looking for help, and because others are not receptive of the fact that you're a human and that you need help, that they're just willing to just shun you to the side, and then it leaves you with all these feelings and being in your head and in that space, and potentially having thoughts of taking your life. And what you're describing is that seems to be exactly what this transgender person went through, that unfortunately she had no support.
Yeah. So one thing that you should know is that before someone commits suicide, they try up to 17 times. I've tried to kill myself severally in Nigeria and even here in the United States. But like before you actually kill yourself, you try and try and try until you just take the last breath from yourself. So, you know, the step that it takes to take suicide is a lot like you lost hope completely, because the first time you are trying it, it's like, I don't really want to take my life. Oh, I want to take my life. You are contemplating, should I do it? Is there hope or something? And maybe you do something that is harmful, but not to the stage that you to take your life. I've overdosed myself with drug. I've cut myself. I've done little things like that. But to the point of hanging myself and losing hope completely, she was like totally fed up with the system. And after she died, UNHCR misgender her, number one, and number two, did not write in the obituary that it was a trans person that died. They misgender her, they call her a he, they call her a name that she doesn't want to be called, and they said that someone in the refugee camp. They didn't say a trans woman like that. So we were angry that UNHCR as a body, international body that is meant to promote peace and safety of refugees, is discriminating against somebody that died under their care just because of the fact that they don't want to take the blame for their incompetency.
So you've been in the US now for a little over 2 years, correct?
Yeah, going to 4 years in October.
That's fantastic, and again, you're doing fantastic work. But I would like to read something that you posted on social media. Um, I'm a stalker. I stalk people on social media. And so please,
We know.
I've not been on Instagram for 4 days now, or 5 days, I think so.
well, the good thing is we have all the links. We have the links to all your pages on Facebook and your professional pages, so that people, if they want to reach out to you and obviously connect with you, they can do that. But you wrote something on your Facebook that really touched me in a way that is just absolutely beautiful, and I'd like to read it with your permission, of course.
Sure.
So you posted on a Facebook page. It was a picture of you. You were visiting Love Park. I believe that's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And you wrote the following. You said, when you have been victimized because of who you choose to love, when you have been demonized for being yourself, when you continually yearn to be free and to love who you want to love, you will treasure the opportunities you are given each day to be alive. And then you said hashtag love is love. That is beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
When I came to the US, it was the first time I ever saw two men kiss each other on the subway in New York City, and I'm like, God, this is not real. Maybe I'm in a different land. Then there was one day I was working in the West Village. Like I was walking close to West Fork Park in New York City, and I saw two guys rolling like maybe their baby on a stroller, and they kiss each other, and I'm like, really, this is really something different. I'm in America, so I have really struggled a lot to be a gay guy. And one thing that I've discovered is that a lot of activists they struggle to be this person. And when they have the opportunity to be it, they find it difficult to live the actualization of this is what I have struggled for all my life. I remember like when gay people were struggling for gay marriage, the previous generation suffered for the right for us to be able to marry as gay people. And it is our generation to normalize it that it is okay to meet a man or a woman meet a woman or date them and get into a relationship and get married and raise a family. Like that is nothing. So it is our responsibility to show people that representation of what we have fought for. But the gay community continue to fail to show that representation. And even when we have the opportunity to do so, because we have been so much marginalized, we don't feel that we have the capacity to do so. So I want to live differently. I don't want to continue to live like I've been marginalized, although I have been. But I'm in a free country. I have a boyfriend. I want to live a life that will permit me to travel with him, hold hands with him, live that life that I will be proud of and say, all the suffer I suffer was not in vain.
Who's your boyfriend? What's his name? You want to give him a shout out?
My boyfriend's name is Nicholas. I've been dating for 2 years now. April.
Great name.
2 years.
It's a great name.
He's an Italian American guy. Yeah.
Sorry in advance, but Nicholas is a great name.
It just is. You
Yeah.
can have that.
So
On Facebook is our booked of our picture together in Colorado.
I think I saw that picture, but I won't tell people that. So, but I have a question for you. So you also, you're also a published author. You wrote a book.
Yeah.
Can you tell us?
My
a little
second
about-
book. My second book is coming October 7, 2020. I love writing because I saw a quote once that says that if a lion does not learn how to write, the hunter will only get a story told over and over again. And that is a problem of so many marginalized people. Like if I ask you, if you're an African American, if I ask you, like, why do you call yourself an African American? It's because of the narrative you have been told that your ancestors came from Africa. But have you seen a German walk on the street and say, I'm a German American? They say that they are Americans. They claim the right to be Americans. So writing for me is giving a visual representation to the stories that have been left on the fringes of society because they are not good enough according to a New York publisher or according to a publicist or an agent or something. We have the responsibility to get our story told. Imagine if James Baldwin did not write those stories about being a gay black man who was SI in Paris. We wouldn't have known that even in the Northeast in Harlem, a gay person was suffering in 1960, a black person. We wouldn't have known. We would have thought it was only in Mississippi or Alabama and the rest. So for me, telling a story is giving an opportunity 200 years from now to know how difficult it was for a gay person to migrate to the United States and to be able to be yourself. So bed 26 was the first bed number I had, because in immigration detention center they call you by your bed number. Even in America, when you arrive, you lose your name to number. You're given an alien number, a bed number, or something. So I wanted to claim back my name, Edafe, because my mother gave me Edafe. It means a wealthy man. So bed 26 was not my name. So my first book was a fictional writing about a gay person who came from Africa to the United States and claimed his name. Now my second book is a non-fiction book. It's a combination of a memoir and auto book about my life as someone who became compassionate. I used to be homophobic before. I used to be a pastor. I became less homophobic. I accepted my sexuality. And now I am doing a work that supports other gay people to be able to embrace themselves. So I'm writing a roadmap to show other people that we should build a compassionate world for people that are left in the fringes of our society. The quote that led to the book Compassion is Worth More is from Coretta King, Martin Luther King's wife. He said that the greatness of a community is accurately defined by the compassionate action of its members. So compassion is worth more than hate, more than division, racism, sexism, homophobia. So we need, as people, to continue to write stories that represent who we are and not allow people to tell our story, because the hunter will always tell our story from their point of view. And we are liars. Why would they allow the hunters to tell our story when we can write?
That's true. It is absolutely true.
I'm
And
like, I'm sitting here and I'm just like blown away by you. Like, I literally am blown away
Really?
by you. Yeah, like you're like such an inspiration. I mean, like everything that you have done. I mean, where you what you had to do to get here, and what you continue to do to support the community, but not only the LGBTQ plus community, but the people of color in the LGBTQ plus community. It's just I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. It's sort of heart wrenching, and it's beautiful. And like
Thank you, Nick.
thank you, no, thank you, because like people like you are exactly what we need right now, especially with this administration. And I have no question right now. I'm just emotional, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate.
Oh
so,
my God, Nick is such a wuss.
yeah,
I'm
he
a
is.
baby.
So, Edafe, what's next for you? So, you have this book coming up. What else are you working on? Because it seems
So
like you want to stay busy. You want to stay engaged. You want to go out there into the community and hit the ground running and work hard. What do you do?
I've I've become less busy these days. I remember the first 2 years I was in the United States. You know, for an immigrant to be seen as somebody in the US, especially in a capitalist society, you have to do twice as much as what anybody expects. Then
Mm-hmm.
to be black, and then to be gay, and to be African with an accent and a different skin color. So it's really hard to show somebody your what. So in 2019, I did a show on Broadway. It's a one-man show, and it was a sold out show. And I am on a documentary by HBO that will be out for this year. So I did a lot in the first 2 years, wrote a book, went on a 15 sitting book tour, traveled to Europe, Canada, went around talking about this message. And I think now I'm learning to be not too busy, because I've come to discover through therapy is that no matter what you give to the white man, he will always see you as not significant enough. So I've discovered that I'm enough, I'm black enough, I'm gay enough, and I'm myself enough. So anything I'm going to do going forward is what will give me personal fulfillment, and I'm not going to do it for people anymore. I've 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 sold out arena for people. I've done events for people. So now going forward, I'm going to continue writing. It's something I enjoy doing. It's my hobby, and it helps me to tell the stories of people I'm really passionate about. I'm going to continue to tell the stories of African LGBTQ people. Then I'm going to continue living and just be myself going forward. No more pressure of like upping the ante.
That is amazing, and we salute you and we congratulate you on your success in being able to first get here, again hit the ground running, and working hard to make sure that people know what's going on, which is important, right? We have to talk about the things that we see, and because it's only then that we'll be able to actually address if people know what's going on, right? If they don't know, they don't care.
True.
And so I want to thank you for telling your story. Please let us know when your next book comes out. We would love to feature you on the show again, and talk about your book. Also talk about your HBO special coming up. That's amazing news. And
Yeah, in the fall.
it's truly an honor. I knew that this was going to be an amazing conversation. We talk about issues in the LGBT community here on the show that happen all over the world. But to have a firsthand account of what it's like to be, for example, in a West African nation and being gay, or being an ex-pastor, or being at one point homophobic, and now learning that you're no longer able to live by that creed, and hitting the ground running, and now advocating vigorously for the community and letting people know what's going on. It's truly commendable, admirable, and just overall, like Nick said, we're amazed. We're absolutely amazed of your story and who you are as a person. Thank you.
So one thing I'm going to say in closing is this. Like, this is the mantra I live by, is that our struggles can either paralyze us or energizes us. The choice is ours. So I choose to be energized by my struggle. When I came to the US, I went through the victim of trauma program from Bellevue Hospital. So it's like a very intensive program because I was beaten by a mob severally. I was kidnapped and so many things. So when I came here, the doctors thought that I was not going to be a functional member of the society. I was diagnosed with severe PTSD stage 3, and I have ADDH. I can't concentrate. But I'm really grateful that I've turned all those mental health issues into being able to write things out, speak, or be at places, and not allow those things to be like paralysis, because I wouldn't have been able to be a functional member of this society. And I'm grateful for the doctors we have in America who are very good with like handling people that have suffered terrific brain injuries, like health disparities and things like that, and to be able to function in this society. I'm really grateful that people accept me to be part of it. So I'm grateful.
Well, I think that we are fortunate to have you here in the U.S., and the people that you're helping are certainly fortunate to have you. You're a great asset, and I think that you're going to do amazing. And
Yeah,
thank
you're
you.
gonna change lives.
I agree. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Again,
you.
you have an open invitation to come here on the show again next time your book comes out, and we'll be more than happy to have you on again.
Thank you. Have a nice one.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that of course was Edafe. He was our guest for the evening. We knew that this was going to be a very amazing conversation, and certainly was. Elsie, your thoughts?
I mean, it's amazing for him to even be able to talk about the things that he went through. I cannot even. I mean, you as a woman of color with an accent, wasn't born in the U.S. You're like, oh yeah, I know what discrimination is, but to that degree, where you are actually persecuted for being born, essentially, it's what goes on because you have no say, right? And go through years of and years of feeling like there's something so wrong with you that it can only be explained by evil.
And
I cannot even imagine a person, a human being, having to go through something like that.
and to see the emotional and how would I say this? It was an emotional and a rewiring of his brain. Like, he knew he was always gay, but he was also a pastor, right? And he had to perpetuate that idea of homosexuality being wrong.
And
And
punish himself because he, I'm sure from the basis of his religion, fully believed that there was something wrong with him.
mhm. And to see, so what I got from that story was redemption at his best, right? You don't come to the US, immigrate here, fleeing persecution for being gay, and then do nothing about it. He
Right.
came here and he found a voice and a way to redeem the wrongs that he may have at one point inflicted on himself and others. And Nick is still emotional about this. Nick, what are your thoughts about it?
I shouldn't be reading this book right now.
Yes, you should.
I think you should. It's healthy. Look at it this way, darling. You're a white man, and there's no doubt that even in my lightness as a Latino man, there is privilege that comes with being lighter. There is privilege that comes with being white.
And it's fucking terrible.
But you are actively working on that. And you every day you seek knowledge. You seek an opportunity to better yourself and better understand your stature and your situation
But the
so that
fact
you
that
can
people have to go through that every day, or the fact that people feel like they have to hide who they are, and I don't think I've ever been this upset on the show before. But the fact that people have to hide who they are and literally live in fear like that,
you know it's
and that happened fucking here in America, and that happens around the world. It's fucking crazy, and it's bullshit, and it's not right.
I agree, honey. Let it
And
out
just because I was born white, I didn't have to deal with it, and that's not. It makes me feel shitty. I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. This is truly it's a very real situation. It's a very real topic, and sometimes it's not easy, and it's even harder when you realize that who you are as a person, your race helps perpetuate that view on the world,
Right, and
on
acknowledging
people.
that,
And you're
acknowledging that.
acknowledging that.
Right,
And
Nick.
by
It
doing that, you work actively every day at making yourself a better human and also advocating for those who find themselves in those situations as well.
Yeah.
and you have to also consider that just as you didn't choose to be gay when you were born, you also didn't choose to be white. And there's really nothing that you can do about what others before us did other than try to make things better now going forward. And acknowledging our privilege is a very important step in not continuing to perpetuate the abuses that unfortunately are tied into any kind of privilege.
So that being said,
I'm
I think
sorry I got so emotional.
no, that's okay. That's
I just
okay.
like I'm so proud of him. Like everything he had to overcome and what he's doing to support the community here right now. And the fact that he can't support the community at home where he's from. Oh my god, it's like my heart is like broken.
But his story is one that not many people may end up in his position, but he's a story of success. He's a story of someone who worked hard. I'm sure he had to work very hard to accomplish all that he's accomplished thus far in his life. And there's no doubt that given what he's already done, that through his work, through his writings, through his advocacy, that he's going to change many lives. You are right when you
I
say
hope
that,
so.
you know?
And
So,
I hope if anybody's listening in countries like Nigeria that they just know that there is hope and that it's okay to love yourself for who you are.
So, and then one of the things too that I wanted to make sure and mention was that he had mentioned a lot of organizations that help you, right? He said one of the most important things when you're seeking to leave and seek asylum in another country is to have a passport. He mentioned the Rainbow Railroad in Canada, but there was other organizations, and unfortunately, because of the issues with connectivity, it was on and off. I'm going to reach out to Edafe and make sure that he gives us all this information so that we could provide that for you, possibly in the next episode, because I think it is important. If you're listening and you need help and you can get access to a passport, these organizations are there to assist. And so we'll do that for you and make sure that we post it and talk about it on our coming up episodes. So, all right.
Hey Tom, can you take my crying ass face off the big screen, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
To you. All right. So
Oh,
listen.
we'll go to my crying space.
So while Nick is, getting himself together for a minute, maybe I can cover a story. We did have a story at the beginning, but we started talking about the book and we got involved in that conversation. But the LGBTQ rights plaintiff, Amy Stevens, who was fired from her job as a funeral director after coming out as transgender, is no longer able to travel for life-saving dialysis treatments and is currently receiving hospice care. Stephen's health is failing just as the Supreme Court is ruling in her unemployment discrimination case. Stephen came out as a trans person to her employer at the funeral home in suburban Detroit in 2013. 2 weeks later, she was terminated. Now, in this particular case, whatever decision is rendered by the Supreme Court, there were 3 cases that were determining
I'm sorry,
where.
Tom. Can we see your face while you're talking about this? Because
Oh
all
yeah,
I see is Elsie.
sorry, I thought I changed that. My apologies. um,
God.
I love you, Elsie, but like, I'm just trying to connect to the story.
So three different cases went to the Supreme Court, all having to do with discrimination in the workplace and how the decisions rendered by this more conservative Supreme Court now, right, with Gorsuch and the other asshole Kavanaugh, in the court, they have they have a conservative majority, and there is a possibility that how they decide these 3 cases could determine whether or not, as a gay man, as a transgender woman, or a gay woman, or anyone within the spectrum of the LGBTQ plus community, determines whether or not they can discriminate against you based on that. And we haven't gotten a ruling, but I'm sure that one is coming, and we're still holding our breaths. It's that ruling, depending on what it is, could have a significant impact in the workforce for people in our communities. And so if you have a moment, we'll post a story tonight also on our post. It was published on theadvocate.com. Read it. It's important. The information contained in that story and what's happening at the Supreme Court is important, and just as important as marriage equality was in 2015. So, Nicholas, would you like to attempt to cover your story? You can do it. I have faith in you.
Yeah, let me just pull it up. I'm sorry.
That was intense.
Yeah, no, it was really intense for me, and I'm so like for all of our listeners in advance. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. But you know, at the end of the day, like I'm a highly emotional person, and also I'm literally in the middle of learning about so much bullshit, and that's probably what you would consider my white guilt. And I think the pain and the heartbreak I was feeling was probably part of that, because I mean that's really what it was. And that's what I mean. If you can't acknowledge it and say it out loud, then it's not going to change. And I'm finally able to recognize those feelings, and maybe I'm feeling them a little deeper because I'm really diving deep into what this whole racism, white supremacy bullshit, white privilege thing is. And I think that's really important. I think we all need to do that, but that's probably why I'm feeling it so deeply today, especially because I literally talked about it for an hour and a half today in equity inclusion meeting. So this is all feeding into one another. So it's just a little crazy. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about a story that popped up. So there was a babysitter, and she slapped a boy and used anti-gay slurs for him dancing while she was babysitting. One, you're a fucking babysitter. Don't ever fucking slap a kid. First thing.
That's one.
Not your job. That's mom and dad. If they want to hit their kid, that's their choice. Mom and dad don't hit your kids, but every once in a while, I got the wooden spoon. We all know.
Well, you're Italian, so you would.
Yeah. But she went ahead and said, "You don't do that shit. Fuck wrong. What's the fuck wrong with you, gay ass bitch?" The babysitter told the child, who stopped dancing and held his face after being slapped. The boy had been engaged in the savage TikTok dance alongside with his sister when the babysitter hit him. And to me, it's like,
so this was caught on video?
Yes, actually, it was caught on video. Um, but
Somebody would be dead. I'm sorry. You touch my
the
child.
cops are involved and all of this stuff, but the reality is, it's like you really have to fucking vet your babysitters. One, but two, don't ever shame a young person for just dancing or being who they are. I mean, I wore a fucking tube top and a fucking shirt, like in a photo with my family. Like
Yeah, you did.
the reason
Which is a
coming
different
out.
conversation, but
I know we didn't know, but the reason coming out and the reason gay is not normal, or the reason gay is not the normal, right, is because people put these preconceived notions on kids who have no like concept of what's okay and what's not. Like, just because he was dancing to a TikTok video does not make him gay. It was he was having fun with his sister. Could he be gay? Sure, fine. We don't know that. But the fact that somebody's going to shame him at such a young age means, one, he's either going to be gay and hate himself for it, or two, not going to be gay and persecute other people for it.
Correct.
And that's why you don't do that. You don't put your personal preconceived fucking bullshit notions on your children, because if it's hate, you're just creating more hate. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's that story. More
I can
hate.
only imagine what the parents must have gone through after watching that. I swear I would probably lose my shit.
Well, the mom
this is
said
why I don't have kids, among other things.
The mom said in the story, my son is fine. I know he's good over here. I know he's being loved right now. I'm just hoping and praying they don't take my babies away.
So you mean to tell me that she's under the impression that the babysitter does the deed, smacks the kid upside the head or the face or whatever, traumatizes the kid for life, but yeah, it's the parents' fault?
100%. They hired her.
Well, they hire the person, but sometimes even when you vet people, people need to understand that, you could have the cleanest record on earth, and when you want to be a dick or an asshole or just be someone who just wants to be bad, you're gonna do it.
I'm not blaming the parent. I don't think the parent was wrong in this situation. I don't know what the vetting process was, but I understand the fear of the situation. The parent is afraid that because law enforcement is now involved, that there is a chance that she's going to lose her kid because of something that she had no control over. So that's where I'm coming from. Like, I don't think the parent did anything wrong if everything was vetted correctly. But the reality is, she is fearful that she could lose her kids because of the situation.
It's scary. I mean, there's potentially a lot of reasons why, parents would be. I mean, I've seen kids fall and hurt themselves and go to school, and parents are worried. Oh my God, they're gonna see this bruise and think I'm beating my child, and next thing you know it, I'm gonna have DCF at my door. So I mean, her concern is legitimate. But, obviously, if police were involved, they obviously know that this woman injured this and traumatized this boy for life.
Yeah.
With this situation. And if it's caught on video, obviously, we know she did it.
Well, and in the video, too, like, so in the article, it says initially social media followers thought that the woman that was hitting the kid was the mother. However, that was clarified by the godmother on Friday. And she said it was the babysitter, and then went on to say, my godson comes from a loving home, and whether he's gay or not, they will love him. We will love him regardless.
And that's the most important part of it all.
Yeah.
The fact that if he decides at some point to embrace whoever he is,
but that's actually a perfect, like, example of outside influence. Like, you can have the most loving family, you can have the most amazing family that would support you no matter what, but then there's society, and as kids, as people, we are introduced into society, and people have their opinions, and those opinions are forced on people. And this is the perfect example of, at such a young age, somebody else's opinion and somebody else's feelings coming into a home and changing a fucking dynamic for a kid that probably would have been raised and could have come out without even fucking thinking about it, and now will move forward in life knowing that gay is wrong and gay is not good because of this dumb bitch. Excuse my language.
And no, that's okay, honey. You're fine. You know that. This is gay talk. We've said worse. And that's the important thing. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that story. Elsita, how are you doing, my dear?
I'm great. More confirmation that we're just a bunch of fucking assholes. Can we please stop being dicks?
Oh my God, today's show was so intense.
It was a very intense show.
We needed to compensate last week. Our Wednesday was super light, so
and happy.
It was. Yeah.
So it was today was very, very heavy, but it was a show that needed to happen. It definitely did. So all right. So why don't we start wrapping things up? We can jump into Mama Kim's Minute and do all these other good things. Elsie's got the Gay Talk term coming up.
Yeah,
Nick,
I got it. I got it.
Is coming. All that good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna get my timer ready.
All right, hold on. All right, everybody. So here's Mama Kim's Minute. So number 1, Hungary removes ban on gay and bi men donating blood. I wish the USA would get behind that movement. Number 2, NYC's Potters Field on Hart Island, which is a really actually amazing video. We will post it on our website tonight. 3, Germany has banned conversion therapy for minors. 4, that time a lesbian couple found a note from a neighbor's kid on their front door.
I won't elaborate
interesting.
on that, but go ahead.
Yeah. 5, Betty White. She's back. She's still here. Betty White is coming back on television. Finally, there's good news in 2020.
Yes, you better work. 40 seconds, girl. You better work. So that fourth one that you mentioned there, a time a lesbian couple found a note from a neighborhood kid on the front door. I clicked on the story. I encourage that you click on the story. It's really cute. So the little boy left a note thanking the lesbian couple for proudly displaying their LGBTQ flag in front of their home. And the child was moving away, but he wanted to leave that note, make sure they knew that he was proud.
That's amazing.
Such a beautiful story.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Elsie, you've got our Gay Talk term.
I sure do. Do the thing.
Oh, you want me to do the thing? All right. Well, this Gay Talk term is brought to you, of course, by
GayGorillasGay.com.
What a mess. Go for it.
This is definitely my shtick on the show. Watch Elsie fuck it up. So the Gay Talk term of today, red light warning. In some baths or bars, a red light flashes on, giving the patrons a chance to leave before an impending raid. So safety.
Right. So this was late 1960s. So it's remnant of, for example, the Stonewall riots and all the raids that were occurring in the bars back in the 60s. So one of the warning signs they had was red light. Interesting.
So I'm going to do this, but first I want to say something. So I watched The Falsettos this weekend, which is a Broadway show, and it takes place during the AIDS crisis. And everybody should watch it. Broadway HD live. You can get on Amazon, check it out. It's funny, powerful, emotional. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful musical. Check it out. I just wanted to plug that really quick because we were talking about gay stuff. Anyway, because that's what we do.
That was awesome. So, that was awesome right now.
On this day in gay history, of course, brought to you by GayRealEstate.com.
Catch up.
Is when May 11th, 2001, where Egypt. And it's called the Cairo 52. 52 men were arrested on a floating gay nightclub called the Queen Boat, moored on the Nile in Cairo. Most of them are charged with habitual debauchery and obscene behavior. Their trial lasts 5 months, during which time they are vilified in the Egyptian media and subject to beatings in prison. So that's
Which is no surprise.
that's not an uplifting one, but that was the only one. So
It unfortunately happened. It's something that happened in our LGBT.
in 2001.
And, right. That was like the other day. But again, that seems to be the theme of today's show. These conversations are important. We cannot stop having conversations about negative events just because they make us feel badly. Because what we do is then help to perpetuate the notion that things are not as bad as we think for people in the community, for people of color, for people, you know what I mean? People in Nigeria. And yes, they're uncomfortable and really hurtful conversations to have, but they have to be had.
Agreed.
Preach.
All right. Well, that being said, Elsie, is there anything else you want to throw in there today before we wrap it up?
No, I think I'm all set for today.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you love the show, make sure you go subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcasting service. Doing so allows you to access our show on your web browser or your favorite device as soon as the episodes are published. You can also support us on Patreon, which is a service that allows you, our listeners, to support the show with a monetary donation every month. Doing so would allow us to collect those monetary donations monthly and can be in any denomination of $1 or more. So since Chris is not here, I'm going to throw that over to Elsie. No?
Yes. Next week, it's all about the dish, a full episode of stories and news in LGBT spaces.
That's right. We don't have a guest, so it's going to be a lot of talk. Nicholas?
Oh, we can talk about all the shows.
That's right. We can do that too.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to try to do this. So thank you to our guest, Edafe Okporo.
Okporo. Mm-hmm.
Okporo. For joining us on today's episode. Sorry if I screwed your name up. I'm terrible. You can find all his contact information on our show's post tonight. And guess what? It's your favorite time of the evening because guess what? You can get your discount today for Future Method. Each time you clean out with water or enemas, delicate tissues are harmed and cells are damaged, increasing chances of injury and or STDs. The first of its kind, doctor-developed formula that gently cleanses before you play without hurting your bum. And now you can use code GayTalk20 for 20% off, valid for one purchase or on one subscription per person.
And yes, I love that he does that live every time. I love it.
So here's the thing. He's animating, right? I have like the whole promotional thing that we have on the video version of the show. He's animating it like if people are watching.
I know.
I have to. It helps me get through it.
And he's like, he wanted me to actually pre-record that. And I was like, no, I'm not pre-recording it.
Absolutely not. Do not take that away from me.
First of all, at first you were like, yeah, sure. And then I screwed it up the first couple times and you were like, no, we're definitely not doing it.
Yeah, we're leaving it like that.
All right, actually, maybe next week we'll make Elsie do it.
Oh my God,
absolutely not. I'll stop working at 4:00 every day so I can rehearse it out loud. And then screw it up anyway, because of course.
It's what Elsie does.
That's what I do.
But we love you for it.
Oh my God, you're perfect.
Elsie,
never
you've
change.
Got the next one.
Okay, so our show is available on our website, GayTalk20.
You forgot something.
Oh my God, let's put a rubber on it.
Thank you.
It's going to be 2030 and I will get it right then. I promise.
Listen, I couldn't say LGBTQ for like the first 45 episodes.
He had a sign. He literally wrote out the letters. He had a sign in front of him when we first started the show.
Yeah. Really, Tommy?
Yes.
Really?
I would twist the letters.
Talk about HR.
LBTG. It was all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, it happens. I mean, it's not like you're part of the community or nothing. So our show is available on our website, gaytalk20.com. Under shows and episodes, it is also available as a free download on iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher Radio.
Yes, Queen.
Nick announces. You can find us on social media: Facebook, Gay Talk 2.0, Instagram, Gay Talk 2.0, Twitter at Gay Talk 20. You can email us at gaytalk2.0@gmail.com. Tom, take it away.
And if you need to reach out to us, just head on over to our website. There, you can click on the Contact Us tab located at the top of the web browser. You can leave comments, suggest topics, leave questions for the cast or an individual host, or you can call us at 334 Gay Talk. And if you need all the digits, it is 334 429
It's called an LC.
55. I love them so much. Don't forget, we do stream live every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can access that live stream by visiting digitalstreamradio.com. With that, ladies and gents, that is our show. Thank you, and y'all have a good night. Bye.
Bye. It's called an LC.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Gay Talk 2.0. Tune in next time for more dish.